Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakudash, Barakathom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, the great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to Ya'akim out there pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the Brother Raya with another video, and this is going to be a prophecy update video on the upcoming battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, or that Battle of Armageddon, which is going to take place in that Middle Eastern region. Because if you've been keeping your eyes in the news, you can see that these nations are forming alliances with each other. So those alliances will eventually go to war with each other in that Middle Eastern region, all to bring about the prophecy of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. And I'm going to start things off with an article on ZeroHedge.com titled, "The Future of the Middle East, the Astana Trio versus the Warsaw Debacle." While on February 13th through the 14th, Warsaw, Poland hosted the U.S.-sponsored and U.S.-supervised Middle East Conference, well attended by the representatives of the Arab countries, but only by second-tier EU diplomats. The Astana Trio, Russia, Turkey, and Iran, held theirs in the resort city of Sochi, the venue of the 2016 Winter Olympics. While the Warsaw event, for all purposes and intentions, was held to drum up support for a joint action against Tehran, mainly at the behest of those Amalekite Edomites in the state of Israel and their puppet, the United States, the rival Sochi meeting addressed the on-the-ground situation in war-torn Syria and also this coming war with Iran and Israel, because these nations can clearly see that that's on the horizon. Israel won't stop at nothing until they get that war so they can overthrow Iran and be the hegemon in the region. The makeup of the country's future government, the formation of the Constitutional Committee, the restoration of the basic infrastructure in terms of water and electricity supply systems, and the voluntary return of many refugees. Warsaw and Sochi, two simultaneous games of chess with two sets of chess pawns swearing allegiance to different sovereigns or to none at all. Turkey, though formerly a NATO member, used the occasion to strengthen its ties with Russia rather than its military ally, the United States. Israel, though no NATO member, used the occasion of the Warsaw Gathering to form a crusade against Iran, enlisting NATO countries as aid. The European Union members, though predominantly members of the Atlantic Treaty, distanced themselves from the Middle East Conference with Germany, as is known, continuing to cooperate with Russia over natural gas supplies. Israel, and what follows, its puppet, the United States, has a keen interest in neutralizing Iran, whereas the Astana Trio, named so after the initial venue of the three in Astana, Kazakhstan, sought to capitalize on Assad's success in the civil war and the resultant American pullout. And Israel's going to be the match that's going to light off this battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. As you can see, they're trying to get these other nations to ally themselves with Israel. And it's all stated in Jeremiah 49:20 that they would do so. Therefore, hear the counsel of Yahweh that he hath made against Edom, you so-called white people, you red Hebrew Edomites, which those Amalekites posing as Israelis are, and his purposes that he hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock, the state of Israel, shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. So Israel's going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing until they set things off. But what's also really important about this alliance between Iran, Russia, and Turkey is that it's also all a part of prophecy that they would do so, as stated in Ezekiel chapter 38. I'm going to start at verse 2. Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the biblical name of Russia, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. This is referring to the Most High putting that old adversarial Soviet Union spirit back on the Russians, which you can clearly see with the Falling apart of the INF Treaty, you've got Russia and the United States, which is biblically known as Babylon the Great, rebuilding their nuclear stockpiles. And you've got political pundits talking about how it's going to lead to a reignition of the Cold War, but it's ultimately going to lead to a nuclear-armed World War III, where Russia is going to shoot nuclear missiles onto the United States, and not just as Russia and its allies going to shoot missiles onto the United States, but the U.S.'s allies are going to shoot their nuclear missiles onto the United States as well, because they're going to turn against it. And I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords, talking about Russia's military equipment. Just think about those new hypersonic avant-garde glider systems that are nuclear capable. Verse 5, Persia, the ancient name of Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer, the ancient name of Turkey, and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, which we're seeing is what they're doing with that meeting in Sochi, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. And very recently, we can see how Russia, or Gog's, been a guard unto these smaller nations. Just look at that Syrian civil war. Israel, the United States, and their other European Edomite interests wanted to overthrow Assad so they could set up a puppet and abuse that country. But Russia stepped in to help Syria and was the main force to destroy ISIS, which was just a proxy mercenary army of Israel, the United States, and the European interests. Everything's heating up. And I'm going to play this quick video on RT America titled Russia, Iran, Turkey Meet, Slam US, to show how Russia, or Gog, is being a guard unto these smaller nations. And this is speaking of that same Sochi meeting in that Zero Hedge article.
It happened today. Putin, Erdogan, and Rouhani, Russia, Turkey, and Iran, their leaders all met in Sochi to discuss the so-called Syria peace process, if that's ever going to happen. They all had something to say, by the way. I think Rouhani may have been the firmest. Let me let you listen to what he has to say, and then I want you to react on the backside, okay? Here it is.
The U.S. announced they were going to withdraw their troops from Syria, but according to our information, they intend to continue interfering in the domestic affairs of Syria.
All at the behest of the state of Israel so they can position themselves against Iran for this coming war.
Regardless of how many American boots remain on the ground, it must be up to Syrians to decide their own future.
So he's saying Syria, he's saying the United States is saying they're going to get out, but they're never going to get out, and he's basically, kind of going after him for that. What's your response?
Well, Trump has said he wants to get out. He promised that during his campaign, but it looks like there's a little bit of foot dragging now, and he's not getting out as fast as he would like. The American foreign policy does not.
BB and Trump are buddy-buddy. Donald Trump is a Zionist.
Not want American troops out. Iran isn't getting out of Syria either, because they have a very, very clear agenda there to grow their sphere of influence and perhaps a jumping off point for attacks on Israel. So the Iranians aren't leaving either.